40 million Americans are tied to the international game in this country. I'd like to make it 80 million. The only way we do that is to continue to expand the way we engage around the world. We do not want to unilaterally disarm ourselves. So when we talk about Ex-Im Bank reauthorization, and I'm also going to touch on Trade Promotion Authority, I'm picking up on what Mike says. If you're engaged in the game, get engaged in the game. It's just not enough to say, I get that this is an important issue. I understand the geopolitical nature of this issue. I understand that trade spurs jobs and spurs our economy and creates all kinds of opportunity. But make a difference, because in your state, I think you've got politicians who generally understand it. But I can tell you in some of your neighboring states, that's not the case. We find ourselves in an unusual situation. On the Democratic side of the aisle, you have strong support for Ex-Im Bank. And you have, on the Republican side of the aisle, some strong support, but also some reservations. On Trade Promotion Authority, you have not strong support on the Democratic side of the aisle, but you have strong support on the Republican side. Now, stop and pause and think about this. The heart of both of these issues is about expanding trade for American companies around the world. And it's about creating jobs in local communities. So somewhere there's a disconnect. If you look at polling today, more and more Americans understand our connectivity to the rest of the world. And this is at a time where there's a great deal of fragmentation, which I think I touched upon last year, when you think about the rise of non-state actors and Russia and all the dynamics. And I'm happy to answer any questions on those issues. But if you think about our world today and how much the internet has connected us, and you think about the role of the United States in the world, why would we not want to assert our leadership at this critical time? Now, I know many of you understand the value of the Ex-Im Bank. I want to just give you four reasons to not only focus on the Ex-Im Bank, but to do something about it. And I'll begin with just the context. All of you, I think, know that the charter for Ex-Im Bank reauthorization expires in late June. As someone said from Boeing in this room, we're 28 days and counting. 28 days and counting. Not a lot of time. And it's very easy, as we know, those of us in Washington know, and those of you who observe Washington know, to see nothing happen. If nothing happens, Ex-Im Bank is not reauthorized. It will expire. Its charter will expire. And that is not only bad for American business, it's bad for American workers. And it threatens the 164,000 jobs that are tied to Ex-Im Bank financing and the $27.5 billion in exports. So we've got to do something about it. And here are four things that opponents don't want you to know about the Ex-Im Bank. First of all, it helps small businesses. You'll get a lot of attention about the big companies that draw on Ex-Im Bank. But 90% of the transactions of Ex-Im Bank are small businesses. About a quarter of the total volume of Ex-Im Bank. Not often understood, not often appreciated. The loans and loan guarantees by the Ex-Im Bank enable companies to reach foreign markets and customers. And for companies that are going to be up here today, Matthews Company in Crystal Lake, these companies would not be able to do their business overseas without the Ex-Im Bank financing availability. Second, it fills a need in the market. Shutting down Ex-Im Bank would eliminate critical financing options that are not available through commercial banks. Commercial banks generally don't accept foreign receivables as collateral for small business loans. So without the bank, companies like Matthews Company would have nowhere else to turn. So there are thousands of those kinds of examples of companies that are similarly affected, which is why we've seen a lot of small businesses come to Washington to lobby this issue. Third, it costs the taxpayer nothing. You often hear that Ex-Im Bank is a corporate welfare for the big companies. It's far from a subsidy. The bank has given the Treasury $7 billion since 1990. It is a real return on investment. which creates, as we discussed, job creation and, of course, export growth. And because Ex-Im Bank is backed by collateral goods being exported, it exposes the U.S. taxpayers to very little risk. And the default rate is something like 2% or less on Ex-Im Bank financing. So when you hear that it costs the taxpayer, know that is just wrong. And know that you've got to push back on that argument. Fourth, it helps the U.S. maintain its competitive edge in the world economy. You know, we often reference the fact that Ex-Im Bank provides all this financing. Well, our trading partners provide it in much more growth numbers. 18 times more export credit assistance is coming from our trading partners than from the United States. More than 60 countries are in this game, and many of them are doing this in a greater number and at really subsidized rates. So if we unilaterally disarm, we're just closing down markets to our companies and eliminating opportunities that would be there otherwise.